I remember the fog rolling in that night, thick and heavy, swallowing the marsh like a pale, silent tide. The reeds whispered with the wind, or maybe something else, brushing against each other as if shadows were moving beneath them. My flashlight barely cut through the mist, its beam trembling with every step I took along the muddy path. The air smelled of damp earth and decay, faint, almost imperceptible, like the forest itself was breathing around me. Somewhere in the distance, water lapped gently, but it wasn't comforting. It was hollow, echoing too perfectly as if calling my name. I could hear my own heartbeat, slow and deliberate, synchronized with the rustling just beyond the edge of the light. And then, the humming started. Not from any machine, not from any animal I recognized. It was soft, almost melodic, almost inviting, and yet every instinct told me to run. That's when I saw it, something pale, standing just beyond the fog, watching me with eyes that seemed to reflect nothing at all. The marsh is quiet tonight. Fog moves low across the water, dragging over the reeds like pale breath. Everything feels slow here. Even the air feels thick, heavy. I can taste the damp. It clings to my skin, to my hair, to the edges of my mind. Somewhere a frog croaks, then stops too soon. The reeds sway, not with the wind, but with something else. I stand at the edge of the wooden path, watching them move, each one bending, twisting slightly like they're listening, and I think, maybe I shouldn't have come here after dark. The sky above is still a faint gray, almost blue, almost gone. The kind of color that doesn't feel real anymore. My breath leaves in soft clouds that fade before I can see them clearly. The marsh hums beneath the silence, a deep, slow pulse. I don't hear it. I feel it. Then I hear my name, a whisper, thin and stretched, from somewhere inside the reeds. It's not loud. It's not close either, but it knows me. I freeze. The boards under my feet creak softly, like a heartbeat out of rhythm. I wait. Nothing. Only the wet air, the smell of mud, the faint rustle that never stops. Then again, my name. Drawn out longer this time, almost curious. I whisper it back before I realize I've done it. And the reeds shift, like something crawling between them just below the fog line. The shadows there don't stay still. They twist, rise, stretch, then vanish the moment I try to see. My eyes ache trying to focus. The wind moves, but the reeds don't follow it. They sway against it as if the air and they belong to different worlds. The wooden planks under my boots are slick. Every step feels like a question I shouldn't ask. There's a pale light ahead, faint, soft, like moonlight caught in water. It flickers between the reeds, not steady, not moving away, waiting. I take another step. The boards groan again. Something in the fog answers with a low ripple, like breath drawn through wet teeth. I tell myself it's just the marsh. Just water. Just the night playing tricks, but the air feels aware. Like the silence is leaning closer. Like something behind the stillness is holding its breath with me. I look down. The water beside the path is black, reflecting nothing. And yet, it ripples, though nothing touches it. Then a voice again. Softer now. Right beside me, I turn. No one. Only reeds brushing lightly against each other, whispering things too quiet to hear. The pale light brightens. For a moment, it paints the fog silver, makes the marsh glow. And in that shimmer, I see them. Shapes, not faces, not bodies. Just outlines shifting inside the reeds. They move like the fog itself is alive. Their limbs too thin, too long. Their heads tilt when I breathe, and then all at once, stillness. Everything stops moving. Even the insects, only the hum remains. A low vibration inside my chest like something under the water is singing through me. The reeds part. Not wide, just enough. The pale light spills through, brighter now, almost white. It pulses once, twice. I take a step closer. The air feels colder, but my skin burns. The whispering returns, louder, layered. My name tangled with other voices I don't know. I want to run. But I don't. I just listen, because beneath the whispers, there's something else. A wordless sound like laughter pressed through water. Soft, joyless. Then just as suddenly, everything fades. The light dies. The reeds fall still. Only fog remains. drifting, slow, silent. I realize I'm holding my breath. When I let it go, the marsh exhales with me. The wooden path stretches back into the mist, endless now. The air tastes of salt and iron. Somewhere deep within the reeds, something stirs again. A single reed bends toward me, then another. Their tips brush together, whispering like lips, and through them, faint, trembling, I hear my name again. Not as a call this time, but as a promise. The fog thickens. The marsh hums softly, and the night listens. The path is older than I remember. Cracked stones swallowed by moss. Branches arching overhead, heavy with dew. Each step presses into damp earth, soft and cold beneath my shoes. It's late. Too late to be walking here. But the night feels wide and hollow, like it's waiting for something. The air tastes faintly of iron. Still, breathless. I can hear my own footsteps light against the broken path. And beneath them, something else. A hum. Soft. Melodic. Almost human. It begins so quietly that I think it's in my head. A note held low in the throat of the wind. But it doesn't fade when I stop walking. It lingers. Behind me, I turn. Empty path. Only trees and darkness. The sound drifts closer. Not louder, just nearer. Like it's being carried through the air. Bending around corners that don't exist. The melody is strange. Not a tune I know. Not even quite music. It moves in patterns that almost make sense before slipping away again. Each note slightly off. Just enough to pull at the edges of my nerves. The longer I listen, the more I feel it in my chest. A vibration under my ribs. Like my heart is trying to match it. I walk faster. The hum follows. Not behind anymore. Beside. Breathing with me. The air grows colder. I can see it. My breath fogging out in thin clouds. It hangs longer each time, refusing to vanish. The path narrows between the trees. Their trunks lean closer, bark slick with moisture. I brush against one. It's wet, almost warm. The hum deepens. It echoes now. Close, then far, then close again. Each time it shifts, my ears strain to find it. But the sound never comes from the same place twice. I whisper to myself, keep walking. Just to hear a voice that isn't that sound, but the hum answers, higher this time, like it's listening. The shadows move with me. They stretch in strange directions, bending over the stones. When I glance at them, they stop. When I look away, they shift again. Something flickers just beyond my sight. A pale blur sliding between the trees. Not fast, just steady, following my pace. The air smells sharp now. Cold metal and wet bark. Each breath feels thinner. The humming turns faintly rhythmic, like a pulse. Slow, measured. It slips beneath my footsteps, matching their tempo. And I realize that it's leading me. The path curves ahead, swallowed by fog. The hum draws me into it, coaxing, steady. And for a moment, I almost want to follow. The fog thickens, soft against my face, damp in my hair. It muffles the world until only the hum remains. It fills the air, above, behind, within. I stop again. Silence. No hum. No wind. Only my breath, sharp and uneven. Then, faintly, it returns. So far away it could be miles. Then closer. Too close. I feel it behind my ear. A low vibration, barely a sound. Warm breath where there shouldn't be any. My skin prickles. I turn slow, careful. The fog parts slightly. Something stands in it. Not a person. Not quite. Its outline flickers like heat above asphalt, shape never settling. The hum comes from its chest, or somewhere near it. I can see the air trembling around it. Each note sends a ripple through the mist. It tilts its head and the tone rises. Almost kind, almost calling. The air grows colder still. The trees creak under invisible weight. I take a step back. It doesn't move. But the hum follows. My breath quickens. The path behind me feels endless, like it's grown longer in the dark. The humming begins to fade again, stretching thin, slipping back into the fog. But it doesn't disappear completely. It lingers, faint, distant, like it's waiting for me to follow again. The trees fall silent. The air still hums, and for a long time I just stand there, listening until the last note trembles and dissolves into the cold. The fog rolled in before sunrise, thick, heavy, pressing against the trees until the forest lost its shape. Everything muted. Muted light, muted breath, muted thought. I shouldn't have stayed this late. But the path back is gone now. Swallowed whole by the gray, the air tastes like damp earth and something colder beneath it, like metal left out in rain. I raise my flashlight. Its beam is weak, trembling in the mist. The fog swallows it whole after a few feet. It's like shining a light into milk. White, endless. Somewhere ahead, leaves rustle. Slow, steady. But the branches don't move. No wind. Just sound, moving closer. I tell myself it's an animal. Maybe a deer. But even my thoughts sound hollow now. Soft echoes in someone else's mouth. I take a step forward. The earth sinks beneath me, slick with moisture. Each step feels heavier, quieter. Then through the fog, something shifts, figures. Faint at first. Barely human. They glide between the trees, tall, thin, blurred by the white air. Their movements are smooth, unhurried. Too smooth. I stop breathing for a moment. My throat burns from holding it in. The flashlight flickers, once, twice. When it steadies again, they're closer. Still silent. Still gliding. I can't make out faces, just the impression of them. Too long, too pale, like wax softening in heat. One turns slightly toward me. Its outline trembles as if the fog itself is holding it together. Then it dissolves, just mist again. But the others remain. I take a step back. The beam stutters once more, then cuts to black. Click. Click. Nothing. Only the fog, pressing closer, brushing against my face like a damp hand. The forest smells different now. Faintly sweet, like rotting flowers. Somewhere above me, the leaves move again. Still no wind. Each sound sharp, deliberate. I try the flashlight again. A dim flicker. It works. Barely. And for an instant, I see them clearly. Faces. Not real faces. Something stretched too far, twisted into a smile that isn't a smile. Eyes like hollow glass catching the light without reflecting it. The beam wavers. They vanish again. The fog moves where they were, swirling as if something just walked through it. I can't tell how many there are now, or where. Every direction feels the same. Pale, silent, waiting. The ground shifts under my feet. Roots. Or something else. Something softer. The smell grows stronger. Sweetness turning sour, turning wrong. Then I feel it. A brush of cold air across my hand. Not wind. Breath. I freeze. The flashlight flickers back on by itself. The beam hits a tree trunk just ahead. Shadows slide across it. Too many to count. They move like smoke, curling and bending against the bark. When I step closer, the shadows scatter, not away, but into the fog, as though they were waiting for the light. The forest hums now, low, faint, like something deep underground has started to stir. The fog grows thicker with each breath. It wraps around my arms, my face, my throat, warm, alive. I turn in place, slowly. Shapes drift at the edges of sight. They melt into the mist when I look directly, but I can feel them circling. The flashlight fades again, dying slowly. Its final pulse glows against the fog like a heartbeat. Then, darkness. The hum deepens. The rustling starts again, closer this time. Leaves moving, though nothing stirs them. Something brushes past my shoulder. Soft, wet, gone before I can react. My breath trembles in the stillness. I listen. Nothing. Just the faint drip of water from unseen branches. And then, from somewhere deep inside the fog, a whisper. Not words. Just a breath trying to form one. The fog around me shifts, pulling tighter. The outlines of the trees fade entirely. The world shrinks to the space between my heartbeat and that sound. It grows softer, fainter, until it's gone. The air is still. The flashlight lies dim in my hand, beam pointed at the ground, and as I take a step forward, the fog parts slightly. Only for a moment I see my own shadow on the ground, but there's more than one. They stretch beside me, behind me, moving when I don't. Then the fog folds over again, swallowing everything. The forest, the path, the light. Only the rustle remains, slow, patient, somewhere deep within the mist. Waiting. The trail is softer than I remember. Mud clings to my boots, pulling at each step like it doesn't want to let go. The night presses down, thick and low, filling every space between the trees. There's no moon tonight, only a pale mist that curls around my ankles, rising slowly with every breath. The air smells of wet leaves and distant rain. Somewhere behind me, water drips steadily, slow, uneven, like a clock that's forgotten time. My footsteps are the only thing breaking the quiet, steady, measured. Then I hear another set. Soft, careful, following. They echo mine, but not quite. Half a beat too late. Always close, but never matching. I stop walking. Silence folds over me. The mist thickens, pushing closer to the trees. For a moment, I can hear my heart more than the world. Its rhythm feels loud, clumsy, out of place in this kind of quiet. I turn around. Nothing. Just the path stretching into fog, its edges fading into white. The trees lean inward, heavy with moisture dripping quietly. I wait, listening. Nothing moves. I start walking again, slower this time. The mud makes small sucking sounds beneath my boots. The air feels colder now, brushing against my skin like static. After a few steps, it returns, those footsteps. Behind me again, still half a beat behind, sometimes closer, sometimes farther. My throat feels dry, even in the damp air. I whisper without meaning to. Is someone there? The fog swallows the words whole. No answer, only the faint hiss of mist shifting between the branches. I quicken my pace. The footsteps quicken too, not a sprint, just enough to let me know they're real. The trail curves ahead, disappearing behind a wall of trees. My flashlight beam trembles across the ground, catching shapes that vanish before I can name them. I look over my shoulder again. Still nothing. But the fog is thicker now, almost alive, curling like breath from unseen mouths. When I look back ahead, the air moves, swirling, slowly forming something. Shapes inside the mist. Too faint to be solid, too stilled to be smoke. They drift in and out of focus, stretching, bending, each one holding for just a second too long. I blink, and they collapse back into vapor. But the footsteps remain, closer now. Wet against the mud, weight pressing into the earth. I stop again. So do they. My hand tightens around the flashlight. Its beam flickers once, dimming. The air is colder than before. My breath comes out in pale threads that hang longer than they should. Something whispers through the fog. Not loud, just enough to curl around the edge of hearing. It says my name, faint, drawn out. Almost curious, my skin prickles. The trees blur behind a veil of gray. Every direction looks the same now, up, down, forward, all fading into mist. The whisper comes again. Closer this time. Right beside my ear, I turn sharply. The light cuts through the fog for a second, and I see it. A figure. Or the idea of one, human only in shape. It stands where the path bends, its edges unraveling into the mist. No face, just a pale shimmer where features should be. The flashlight flickers. The figure blurs, and when the light steadies, it's gone. But the footsteps return, louder, faster, circling now. I can't tell how many there are. One set, then two, then none. The mist moves around me like breath, wrapping itself around my legs, my arms, my throat. It feels warm now. Too warm. I take a step back. The earth gives way beneath me, soft and wet. It feels like sinking. The footsteps stop. The world goes still again. Even the dripping water has gone quiet. I stand there, not moving, listening to the emptiness. My breath echoes too loudly in my ears. Then, one last whisper. My name again, barely formed. Right behind me, I turn slowly. Nothing. Only fog, stretching endlessly in every direction. But somewhere deep inside it, something shifts. the faint outline of movement, slow and patient. Not approaching, just waiting. The mist curls tighter around me. The air grows colder once more, and as I take one last step forward, the trail beneath me seems to fade. The earth no longer solid, the world no longer still. The footsteps return, soft, deliberate, perfectly matching mine now, for the first time all night. They walk in sync. The forest feels taller at night. The trees rise like pillars into the dark, their branches curling together high above me. A ceiling made of bone and shadow. The air is still, too still, like the world is waiting to breathe again. Damp earth presses beneath my boots. The smell of moss, rain, and rot mixes in the cold air. Every sound feels close, too close. I walk slower now. Every step feels watched. Somewhere behind me, leaves shift, barely, a whisper against bark. I stop. The quiet folds in, heavy and patient. When I look up, the branches move slightly. At first, I think it's the wind. But there is no wind. The trees lean just enough to notice. And in the dark between them, something glows. 2 small points of light. Amber, still eyes. They blink once, slow and deliberate. Then open again, brighter. I take a breath I don't remember holding. The air feels thick when it enters my lungs. My heart beats once, too loud in the silence. Then another pair appears. Farther left. Then another. And another. Until the forest is filled with them. Dozens, hundreds, staring from every direction. Some high, deep in the canopy. Others low, near the ground, peering through roots and ferns. Each pair glows faintly. Gold, silver, white, none of them move. None blink. Only the trees creak softly, as if under invisible weight. I can feel the gaze pressing against my skin, cold and sharp. It prickles at my neck, my arms. Every instinct tells me not to look away, but I do. For just a second. When I glance back, the eyes have shifted, not gone. Just moved. Closer. My legs feel unsteady, the ground uneven beneath me. The trees seem denser now, crowding closer together. Their roots like twisted fingers reaching up through the mud. A faint hum moves through the forest, low, vibrating through the ground into my bones. It isn't coming from one place. It's everywhere, inside the air itself. The eyes pulse softly in rhythm with the hum, a slow, steady glow like breathing. I can't tell if the forest is alive or awake. Some of the eyes blink again. Others stay open, wide and still. And one pair, higher than the rest, doesn't blink at all. They're larger, brighter, locked on me. I whisper something, maybe a word, maybe my own name, but it sounds small here. Swallowed before it leaves my mouth, the hum deepens. The trees tremble. Leaves shiver without wind. I take a step back. Branches shift above me, cracking softly. The eyes follow, every single one turning in unison. The air grows colder, heavy with the scent of wet bark. I can taste metal again. Faint, like blood against the back of my tongue. My flashlight is weak now. The beam flickers as it sweeps across the trunks. For a heartbeat, it catches movement, a figure between the trees. Too tall, too thin, its outline barely solid. The beam shakes in my hand. The figure dissolves into the fog, leaving only more eyes behind. The hum rises again, higher now, almost a song. Each note sharpens, cutting into the quiet like static. I can feel it behind my ribs. My heartbeat starts to match it, faster then slower, then gone. The forest feels alive around me, every branch, every root thrumming with that silent energy. The eyes shimmer brighter now, reflecting the pale fog that moves between them like smoke. I realize something. The light isn't reflecting. It's shining outward. They're not eyes catching my beam. They're their own light, watching, waiting. The hum begins to fade. The glow weakens. One by one, the eyes blink out, first the ones above, then those along the path, until only one pair remains, the large ones. Still unblinking, still fixed on me, they stay for a long time, long enough for me to forget how to breathe. Then they narrow, almost like a smile, and vanish. The forest exhales. Leaves settle. The hum stops, only the drip of distant water remains. I stand there alone again. Or I think I am. The trees stretch quietly above me, their branches curling like hands around the dark. The air feels heavy, aware. And though I can't see them anymore, I know the eyes are still there, just waiting for me to look up again. The marsh opens suddenly. The trees fall away, leaving a wide clearing wrapped in pale fog. It's quiet here, too quiet. Even the insects have stopped. Only the soft breath of wind moves, slow, careful, across the wet grass. The air smells faintly of salt and something sweet, almost rotting. My boots sink slightly into the mud. Each step makes a slow, wet sound. At the center of the clearing, it stands a figure, still, pale as the mist itself. It doesn't move. It doesn't breathe. It just exists, like it's been standing there forever. Its shape is human, but not quite right. The shoulders too narrow, the arms too long. Its edges blur into the fog as if it's made of it. I stop walking. Every part of me wants to leave, but I can't. There's something in its stillness that pulls me closer. Not fear exactly, something softer. Sadness. The air feels heavier now, pressing down like water. Each inhale tastes colder than the last. I blink and the figure shifts slightly. Not walking, just drifting. A slow glide backward into the haze. I take a step toward it. The ground ripples under my feet. The mist stirs around my knees, curling in lazy spirals. It drifts again, matching my distance perfectly. Always out of reach. The clearing feels endless suddenly. No edges, no trees, no sky. Only fog, I call out in a single word, nothing more. But it feels strange leaving my throat. The sound falls flat, like the air won't carry it. The figure tilts its head slightly, almost listening, then stills again. Its face, if it has one, catches the faintest bit of light. Skin white as milk, smooth, empty. No eyes, no mouth, just faint shadows where they should be. A shiver runs through me. Not from cold, from recognition. Like I've seen this thing before. Somewhere, the marsh hums faintly beneath the silence. A vibration I can feel in my teeth. The water around the clearing ripples without wind. Then the whispers begin. Soft, carried through the fog. Not words I understand, just the rhythm of them. They sound far away at first, then closer. Right beside my ear. I turn sharply, but there's no one. Only the figure, still in front of me, still motionless. The whispers grow louder, blending together until they almost form a melody. Sad, fragile. I take another step. The figure glides backward again, seamless, effortless, like it's caught in a loop I can't break. The air around me stirs. My hair lifts slightly, though no breeze passes. The fog thickens. Everything turns white. For a moment, I can't see it anymore. Only the faint outline of movement through the mist. Then it appears again. Closer this time. Too close. Its shape looms just beyond arm's length. I can feel the temperature drop. My breath fogs between us, hanging, frozen in the still air. The whispers stop. Silence folds over everything. I can't tell if it's looking at me, but I feel its attention, like a weight pressed against my chest. The sadness grows heavier. It clings to the back of my throat, almost like it wants to speak through me. For a moment, I think I see something in the fog behind it. Faint, flickering shapes. Other figures, dozens of them. Each one just as pale, just as motionless. Then they fade. Only one remains. The wind moves again, soft circling. It carries the whispers back. Lighter now, almost a sigh. They brush against my ear, forming something close to a word. My name. I step back. The figure tilts its head again. The sadness sharpens. Becomes something else, something darker. The fog trembles as if it's breathing. The ground beneath me shifts. Not sinking, but pulsing, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. The figure starts to fade. Its edges blur into the mist, becoming thinner, lighter. The last thing that remains are the shadows where its eyes should be, unmoving, unblinking. Then it's gone. The clearing empties. The hum fades. Only the wind remains, quiet and tired. I stand there for a long time, listening to the silence. The air feels hollow now, like something important has left. When I finally turn to go, the fog moves behind me, just slightly, as though something unseen has taken my place. I don't look back, but I can feel it. Watching, waiting like it never left at all. The pond sits at the edge of the woods, still, flat, a mirror of black glass under the moon. The air hangs thick and wet. It smells of algae and something older, like wood left too long underwater. Crickets hum somewhere far away, but not here. Here, everything is holding its breath. I stand at the bank, boots sinking slightly into the mud. The surface doesn't move. It feels like the world has stopped waiting for something. Then, a ripple. Small at first. Then wider, spreading across the pond until it brushes the reeds near my feet. I freeze. No wind. No fish. Just movement, without reason. The moonlight shivers on the water's skin. Each ripple catches it, twisting the reflection of the trees. Their branches stretch and bend like fingers reaching from below. The air cools. I can feel it against my neck. A faint chill that makes every hair stand. Something shifts beneath the surface. A shape, long, slow, almost graceful. It passes just under the light. Too dark to be clear, too large to be normal. The water folds around it soundlessly. I can almost hear it brushing the mud, a faint dragging rustle that shouldn't exist underwater. I take a step back. The mud clings to my boots, heavy and cold. The pond stills again. No ripple, no shimmer. Just the faint reflection of the moon, pale and unbroken. But the air feels wrong now. Thicker. Heavier. Like something in the pond is breathing. Slowly, each inhale pulls the air tighter against my skin. Each exhale seeps into the silence around me. I glance at the trees. They stand motionless, dark silhouettes, but their reflections in the water move. They sway when the real ones do not. Tiny distortions like something below them is stirring. I kneel slightly, peering closer. The surface trembles, not from my movement, but from something beneath it. Bubbles rise in a thin line, trailing toward the center of the pond. Then stop. The silence deepens until I can hear my heartbeat in my ears. Even the crickets have gone. Only the faint hum of the marsh remains, low and distant. I lean forward, holding my breath. The water is so still again, so perfect. Then, another ripple. Faster this time, circling outward like something rising slowly from below. I can't see it clearly. Just a shadow, pale and soft-edged, gliding just beneath the surface. It moves in patterns, wide loops, almost deliberate. The surface tension breaks for a moment, and I think I see something beneath, something round, smooth, almost like a face, but it vanishes before the thought finishes. My stomach tightens. The air feels colder, sharper against my throat. The ripples fade. Only one remains, small and slow, lapping gently against the mud, and then nothing. Silence so complete it feels alive, like the pond is listening, waiting for me to move. I take a step back. The ground squelches softly. The noise feels too loud, too real against the quiet. Another ripple forms. Not where I was looking. Farther down the bank, something shifts beneath, closer to shore. The reflection of the moon breaks again, fractured by faint movement that doesn't belong to the wind. The water seems to rise. Not high, just slightly, as if something presses upward from beneath. A faint rustling follows, wet and slow, like reeds brushing against scales. My throat tightens. I can't tell if it's coming closer or if the sound is circling. The moonlight flickers across the surface, thin lines of silver tracing every small ripple. Then, in a single heartbeat, everything goes still again. The pond returns to glass, untouched, perfect. Even the air holds its breath. I wait, eyes on the water, ears straining for the smallest break in silence. But there's nothing, no movement, no whisper of life, only the reflection of the moon, bright, endless, and hollow. It looks back at me from the water's surface. And for a moment, I could swear it blinks. The fog was thicker than usual that night. It rolled low along the path, brushing against my legs like cold smoke. Every step I took felt softer, quieter, as if the earth itself didn't want to be heard. The woods here were old. The woods here were old, the kind of old that forgot things. Paths shifted. Landmarks changed, but I knew this trail, or I thought I did. Then I saw it, a small door, crooked, sunken slightly into the dirt at the base of a hill. It shouldn't have been there. There were no buildings here, no walls, no reason for a door at all. It leaned forward slightly, warped with age. Its wood was dark, wet with fog. A rusted handle hung loosely at its center. I stood there for a long time, listening. The forest was silent. No wind through the branches, no insects, just the faint hiss of fog drifting past my ears. The door seemed to hum. A low vibration, not quite sound, not quite silence. My breath came slow and shallow. I glanced around, half expecting to see someone nearby. But it was only me and the door that wasn't there yesterday. Curiosity pulled stronger than fear. My fingers brushed the handle, cold, so cold it felt alive. I hesitated. But the silence pressed closer, and before I could stop myself, I turned it. The hinges didn't creak. They breathed, soft, almost sighing as the door opened outward. What waited beyond wasn't a room. It wasn't anything I could name. It was space, black and endless, a depth that swallowed the light from my flashlight in a single breath. The beam dissolved into nothing. No reflection, no floor, just open dark. My chest tightened. The air felt wrong here, heavy, like it carried weight, and from somewhere inside that emptiness, a voice, soft, distant, barely human. It called not with words, but with tone, a slow, coaxing rhythm that felt almost familiar. I couldn't tell if it was behind me or ahead. It seemed to drift between both. I took a single step closer. My boot hovered over the threshold. The air around the doorway pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. I felt it against my face, a warm breath from inside the cold. It whispered again. This time I thought I could make out a word. My name, every muscle in me locked. I didn't remember breathing it aloud. I didn't remember thinking it. But the voice knew. It drew out the syllables slowly, each one fading into a deeper echo, until the woods themselves seemed to hum with it. My hand trembled on the doorframe. The wood was slick, soft in some places, as if it had been wet too long. I stared into the dark. Shapes flickered faintly at the edge of the void. Too quick to understand, too smooth to be natural. It felt endless but somehow close. Like if I leaned just a little more, something would lean back. A faint shift came from within. Not movement. Pressure. The air pressed outward, and I felt something on my skin, like fingertips brushing the edge of my sleeve. That's when the whisper changed. It wasn't coaxing anymore. It was pleading. Low, trembling, desperate. Come closer. Please. I stumbled back. The fog caught at my ankles. The door remained open, and for one long second, I thought I saw light moving deep inside, not bright, pale, like moonlight shining through deep water. It shimmered once, then flickered away. The voice faded with it, a sigh dissolving into stillness. I slammed the door shut. The sound echoed strangely, as though it hit not wood but water. When it closed, the hum stopped. Everything went quiet again. I stepped back, breathing hard. The door looked different now, older, more fragile, as if it had been standing here for decades, not hours. I reached out once more, but the handle was gone, just smooth wood where it had been. The fog thickened around me, swallowing the clearing until the door itself began to fade. By the time I blinked, it wasn't there anymore, only trees. And silence. The path stretched ahead, empty and still. But as I turned to leave, I caught a faint echo in the fog behind me. My name, soft and patient, drifting from nowhere. The path was narrow. Damp earth pressed beneath my boots, soft from days of rain. Mist hung low over the trees. It drifted across the trail in slow ribbons. turning everything into a blur of gray and breath. Each step I took landed with a faint, muffled weight, and beneath it, another. At first I thought it was an echo, sound carrying strangely through the fog, but it wasn't. The timing was too precise, too deliberate. Every time my heel met the ground, another followed, a fraction of a second behind. Close, too close. I slowed. The echoes slowed. I stopped. They didn't. 2 more steps. Soft, measured. Then silence. I turned, but the fog behind me was thick, folding into itself like smoke. No shape. No shadow. Nothing but a pale emptiness stretching between the trees. I told myself it was just the woods playing tricks. Fog does that. Sound bends. Distance lies. Still, I felt it. A weight in the air. A kind of a tension. I started walking again, faster this time. The echoes followed, perfectly. Each step matched my rhythm like a reflection in sound. When I hurried, they hurried. When I slowed, they waited. I could hear the wet earth pull softly beneath each tread, like something heavier than I was walking just behind me. My throat felt tight. The mist pressed closer, cool against my cheeks, tasting faintly of iron and moss. The trees leaned in overhead. Their branches creaked softly, and for a moment it felt like the forest itself was listening. Another turn in the path, a dip where the ground sloped toward a stream. I moved quietly, testing my steps, trying to catch the thing behind me off guard, but it was patient. Always 1 heartbeat behind. Every step it took felt like it was learning me, my pace, my rhythm, my hesitation. The air thickened with moisture. The mist clung to my eyelashes, turning the light into pale halos. I couldn't tell where the trail ended anymore. The world beyond 10 feet was gone. Only footsteps. Mine, and not mine. I stopped again, holding my breath. The forest held its breath too. Then, slowly, the other steps continued, not rushing, not retreating, just walking. Past the place where I had stopped, I should have seen something move through the fog. A silhouette. A shadow. But there was nothing. Only the sound of feet brushing wet earth, fading forward into the path ahead, as if whatever had followed me was now leading the way. The silence that followed was unbearable. It pressed into my ears until I could hear my pulse. Every inhale felt too loud. Every exhale. Wrong! I took 1 step forward. Then another. The echoes returned. But not where they should have been. This time, they came from both sides, close enough that I could feel the vibration through the ground. Soft thuds circling, overlapping in a strange rhythm that didn't belong to me anymore. My heart was beating faster than my steps. The mist swirled in faint currents, shapes moving at its edges, just enough to make me see what wasn't there. I called out, quietly. My voice cracked against the damp air. It sounded small, swallowed. No answer came. Only another step, then another, each one slower, heavier, like something was testing how close it could come. I turned again, eyes searching the white air for a form, a shape, anything. The fog moved as if breathing, expanding, falling, and then a single footstep. So close I felt the vibration in my chest. It came from directly behind me. I spun around, but the trail was empty. The fog stirred slightly, curling back into itself. I could still hear the echo fading into the trees, slow and steady, retreating deeper into the mist. The forest exhaled, and with it came silence. No wind, no insects, just the faint hum of air pressing against stillness. I stood there until my breathing steadied, until the cold seeped through my clothes. Then I started walking again, 1 careful step at a time. No echo followed this time, no rhythm chasing my own. But as I left the trail behind, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had learned my footsteps, and somewhere out there in the fog, it was still walking, waiting for me to return. The air was cold that night, still, heavy enough that each breath felt like breathing through glass. Mist rolled in over the fields, soft and endless, swallowing the horizon until the world was nothing but white. I walked the narrow path that cut through the trees, boots brushing against wet leaves, hands tucked deep into my coat. There was no wind, no sound, only the faint hum of my own breath. That's when I saw it. A flicker, far ahead in the fog, a dim orange glow, just high enough to hang above the ground. It pulsed once, then steadied. A lantern. At least, it looked like one. I couldn't tell who was carrying it, or if anyone was at all. The fog shifted as I stepped forward, closing in around me like soft fabric. Each movement made the light waver, as though it was aware of me, watching. The trail was damp beneath my feet. Small drops of water clung to the air, settling on my skin like static. I walked closer. The lantern swayed gently in the mist, its glow warm and strange. Almost comforting, but each time I drew near, it moved. Just a little farther ahead. Not fast. Just enough to stay out of reach. It was like it wanted me to follow. The silence deepened around me, so complete it pressed against my ears. Even my footsteps felt muted, as though the earth was trying to hush me. The light flickered again. Brighter this time, then dimmer. I tried to focus, but it was hard to tell if it was real or just reflection. Fog can play tricks with distance. It can bend light, turn something near into something impossibly far away. Still, I followed. The orange glow drifted between the trees, soft and patient. Never rushing, I called out once. A whisper barely leaving my throat. "Hello?" Nothing. The light blinked. Then slid quietly to the left like an eye looking away. A faint chill brushed over my arms. Something cold, gentle, like fingertips dragging across my sleeve. I froze. Every sound in my body seemed to stop. When I turned, the fog behind me was thick and still. No outline, no movement, only that strange, endless white. And then the lantern flickered again. Farther now, deeper into the dark. It shouldn't have been possible to see it that far. The mist was too dense. But there it was, a small, trembling ember floating in nothing. I stepped forward again. One careful pace, then another. The air grew colder, heavier. The ground beneath my feet changed, from damp leaves to soft mud to something slick, almost smooth. I knelt slightly, tracing the earth with my fingertips. Stone. The trail had ended. But I hadn't noticed when. The lantern hovered ahead. Its light now faint, barely breathing. I could hear my pulse in my ears. Feel the air tremble slightly, as if something unseen was moving close, but not touching. The mist shifted again. Shapes tried to form in it, like outlines of hands or faces that vanished when I blinked. The lantern flared once, bright enough to show the edge of a clearing. Then it went out. Darkness folded around me. Complete. Absolute. I waited, listening. My breath trembled against the cold. I could still see the afterimage of the light behind my eyelids, burning orange against the black. Something brushed my arm again. Softer this time, not a breeze, not movement. It lingered, a presence more than a touch. I stepped back. My heel sank into the wet ground. The fog didn't move anymore. It just watched, and then, in the distance, a flicker. The lantern's glow reappearing far deeper between the trees, smaller now, weaker, as if it was sinking into the dark. I could have followed, but I didn't. I stood there until the light disappeared completely, until the last trace of orange was gone. The silence that followed was thick and endless. Even the air seemed afraid to move. I turned back toward the path, or where I thought it was. The mist had shifted again. No sign of the trail, only pale emptiness stretching in every direction. But for a moment, in the farthest corner of that endless white, something shimmered. Not light, not shadow, just the faint reflection of my own face in a place it shouldn't have been. And behind it, a glow, small, flickering, waiting. The marsh was silent beneath the winter moon. A white stillness stretched in every direction, soft as breath, cold as glass. The ice glimmered faintly, a perfect mirror for the pale sky above. I could see the trees reflected in it, their black, twisted shapes reaching down like fingers. It was late, too late to be out there, but I couldn't make myself leave. Something about the stillness felt alive. My boots crunched against the frozen ground. Each step broke the quiet, and the air around me felt heavier for it. I knelt by the edge of the pond, gloved hands brushing away thin snow. The ice was clearer there. Deep below, I could see faint shadows drifting slowly under the surface. They moved like smoke, curling and fading, but never gone. I held my breath. The ice creaked softly, a sound like bones shifting. Then, a crack. Small, delicate, but sharp enough to echo. I froze, eyes fixed on the fracture as it spread outward in a thin white vein. No weight pressed on it. Nothing touched it. Still it grew. Another crack joined it. Then another. The web widened in silence, splitting the reflection of the moon into a dozen trembling shards. I stepped back. The air felt colder now, biting at my face, sinking through my coat, somewhere beneath the ice. Movement, a ripple of shadow glided just under the surface, slow, deliberate. It passed beneath my feet, dark and shapeless, then vanished into the far end of the pond. The silence that followed didn't feel empty anymore. It felt waiting. I tried to listen past my own breath. The hum in the air grew faintly louder, a low vibration that wasn't quite sound. It pressed against my chest, soft and steady, like something breathing beneath the frozen surface. My reflection quivered. For a moment, I thought I saw someone else beside me, a figure standing just at the edge of my vision. When I turned, there was nothing, only the thin gray mist curling above the trees. Another crack, this one deeper. It cut across the pond in a jagged line, reaching toward me like a hand. The shadows below shifted again, not drifting now, stirring. I could see shapes in the ice, faces maybe, or just the illusion of them. The kind that form when you stare too long and your eyes start to make sense of the dark. My pulse quickened. I took another step back. The ice didn't move. The mist didn't shift. But somewhere between the windless air and that humming silence, a voice whispered. Faint, fragile, almost kind. Will you stay? It came from nowhere and everywhere. The words slipped through the fog, soft enough to make me doubt them. I wanted to speak, but my throat was dry. The air felt thick, like breathing through frost. The question hung there, long after the voice had gone. Beneath the ice, the shadows began to move again, slow circles spiraling outward, as if something below had stirred them awake. I watched, helpless, as faint light glimmered beneath the surface. Not reflection. Something deeper. A pulse, soft and rhythmic, like the pond itself had a heartbeat. Cracks spidered closer, each one smaller, quieter. It felt like the ground beneath me was sighing. The light faded. The shadows stilled, and once again only silence remained. The question still echoed faintly in my mind. Will you stay? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The wind picked up for the first time, carrying tiny flecks of snow across the ice. They settled over the cracks, hiding every trace of movement beneath a clean, cold veil. When I finally turned to leave, my reflection lingered a moment longer on the surface, as if it hadn't decided to follow, and then it was gone. Behind me, the marsh fell still again, but from deep below the frozen pond, something whispered once more, fainter this time. Almost lost to the air. Will you stay? It was early morning, the kind of morning that doesn't feel awake yet. The woods were quiet, still wrapped in a heavy gray fog that moved like something alive. Each breath I took came out slow and pale, curling into the air before fading away. But the fog didn't fade. It lingered. It pressed closer, like it wanted to listen. The trees stood tall and still, their bark damp, their outlines soft and melting into the haze. I could barely see 10 steps ahead. The world felt smaller than it should be, and then I saw it move, the fog. It curled differently this time. Not from wind, not from breath. It bent around something, a shape, almost human. I blinked, and the shape was gone. But before the space could close, something else appeared. A face, pale, featureless, except for the smile. It hung there in the mist, gentle and wrong. Too still, too wide. I couldn't tell if it was close or far away. The fog shifted again, and the face dissolved, leaving behind nothing but gray air. My heart beat faster, but the rest of me felt numb. I told myself it was a trick of the light. That's all, just a trick. But the longer I walked, the more the fog began to move with purpose. It rolled around the trees like a tide, soft and steady, closing in, and every few steps, another face, always smiling, always gone the moment I blinked. Sometimes there were two, side by side, their mouths stretching wider as I turned my head. The air felt thicker now, sweet somehow, like wet soil and something faintly metallic. I wanted to leave the path, but I couldn't see the edges anymore. The forest was gone, swallowed by pale light. A low hum seemed to drift through it. Not loud, but deep enough that I could feel it behind my ribs, and underneath that hum, a faint rustling, soft, like something brushing against skin. I stopped walking. The mist didn't. It moved around me, curling higher. I could see movement within it again, shadows, but not mine. They moved slower, like they were waiting for me to catch up. Then one of them lifted its hand. A perfect match to mine. I raised my arm hesitantly, watching the shadow follow. But a half-second too late. It smiled. The fog behind it twisted, forming faint outlines, mouths stretching into grins that didn't belong to anyone. I felt my throat tighten. Every instinct told me to run, but my feet were heavy, rooted to the damp ground. The mist thinned for a moment, and I saw something glint in the distance. A puddle, still and reflective. I stepped closer, each footstep muffled by the wet earth. When I looked down, the surface was calm. Too calm. My reflection stared back, its features soft in the dim light. Then it smiled, slowly. I hadn't moved. The corners of its mouth lifted just enough to show its teeth. Not mine. Sharper. Longer. The reflection blinked once, and then it didn't stop smiling. I stumbled back, nearly falling into the fog. The air around me pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. I tried to turn away, but everywhere I looked, faces drifted just out of reach. Their smiles hovered in the gray, melting into one another, growing faintly brighter, like distant lanterns. They surrounded me, watching, waiting, and all at once the forest grew silent. The hum stopped. Even my own breath sounded wrong. Too loud, too fast. I looked down again. The puddle was gone. Only fog remained. But when I turned to leave, I saw something waiting where I'd stood before. A shape, human, still as the trees. It faced me, and even through the blur of fog I could see the grin. Wide, pale, familiar. I didn't move. Neither did it. Then slowly, it lifted its hand. The same gesture I'd made before. Only this time I didn't follow. The mist curled around its outline, swallowing it whole, leaving the smile for just one more breath. Before that, too, was gone. I stood there, alone again. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the air itself was grinning. When I finally turned to go, I caught one last glimpse of myself in a slick patch of fog-damp bark. My reflection lingered a moment longer than I did. And when I blinked, it was still smiling. The night was colder than I expected. The air felt heavy, almost wet, and the trees leaned in like they were listening. I was halfway down the trail, a narrow dirt path cutting through the forest. The moon hung low behind a veil of thin mist, casting a faint silver across the ground. Each step sank slightly into the damp earth. The sound was steady, rhythmic, familiar, until it wasn't. There was another rhythm, soft, delayed, following. I slowed. It slowed. I stopped. Silence. The forest didn't breathe. No crickets, no wind. Only the faint hum of the air pressing in. I turned around expecting to see something. Someone. But there was nothing. Only the fog, curling between the trunks like pale smoke. I took another step forward, listening, and again, that sound. Footsteps, behind me, matching mine, but not quite. A half-second off, like an echo that didn't know how to keep time. I tried to tell myself it was just the trail, the way sound carries through the trees at night. But the noise grew sharper, closer. My pulse picked up, beating quick against my throat. I turned again. Still nothing. Only the path stretching backward, swallowed by gray. The mist had thickened. It crept along the ground, hugging my boots, curling around the edges of my flashlight beam. The light cut through the fog, but barely. Everything beyond it looked blurred, soft, like it didn't want to be seen. I kept walking. Faster now, the footsteps followed. Every stride, every turn. My breath came shorter, fogging the cold air in front of me. When I glanced to the side, something moved, just at the edge of sight. A shift, a flicker of shadow. Gone when I looked straight at it. The mist seemed to pulse around me, breathing. Branches rustled overhead, but there was no wind. The trees whispered faintly, though their limbs never moved, and beneath it all, that steady rhythm, those soft, wet footsteps keeping pace. I stopped again, this time turning slowly, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The beam cut through the haze, but only barely. Shapes formed, long and thin, melting into the fog before I could focus. I took a step backward. Something whispered. Not words I could understand. Just sound, like the forest itself was murmuring. It slid along the mist, brushing against my ears, low and rhythmic, as if it were trying to speak in a language too old to remember. My mouth was dry. Every breath felt shallow. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. The fog moved closer, thick and slow, swallowing the trees one by one. Something shifted inside it. A darker patch within the gray, tall and still, watching. I blinked, and the shape was gone. But the footsteps weren't. They came again, faster now, closing in. I turned sharply, light darting left, right, nothing. Only the fog, glowing faintly in the beam, as if it reflected from something unseen. Then I heard it. A breath. Not mine. Close enough that the air moved beside my neck. I froze. The whispers came again, curling around me like fingers. Soft, broken syllables, stretching and fading before they could make sense. I closed my eyes. Counted to 3. Opened them again. The path was empty. Silent, but the mist was watching. I could feel it. Every direction looked the same. The trail had vanished into pale gray. My heartbeat filled my ears. It was all I could hear, until the next step came, right behind me, louder, heavier. I spun around, flashlight raised, heart hammering, and everything stopped. The sound, the whispers. Even the fog seemed to hold still, suspended mid-motion. A single breath brushed my cheek. Cold. Too close. I didn't dare move. For a moment, the silence felt alive. Then, slowly, the mist began to drift backward, pulling itself away like a tide. The path reappeared, faintly, familiar. I forced my legs to move. One trembling step at a time, each footfall echoed again, but now, they were mine alone. The forest stayed quiet. The fog loosened its hold. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that if I stopped, if I looked back again, I'd see something standing there, half hidden in the mist, smiling softly, waiting for me to listen. So I kept walking, and behind me, very faintly, a single step followed. It was colder in the clearing than it was in the woods. I could feel it the moment I stepped out from the line of trees. The air, thinner, still. The grass was brittle under my boots, frozen with a thin layer of dew that caught what little light the moon allowed. And in the center of that clearing, it stood, an ancient tree, alone, bent with age. Its bark split open like a scar that never healed. The hollow in its trunk was wide enough for a person to step inside. Almost inviting, almost. I stopped a few feet away, hands buried in my pockets to hide the shaking. There was something about it, something that made the night around it feel wrong. No breeze moved through the branches, yet the leaves shivered, like something unseen was brushing against them. The moonlight hit the hollow just right, and something inside shimmered, not a reflection. Not light, something else. It pulsed faintly, a soft glow buried deep within the dark. Alive. I stared at it too long, and it began to hum, low at first, almost like the vibration of a thought you shouldn't be thinking. It wasn't loud, but I could feel it through the ground, through the soles of my shoes up into my chest, a deep, steady rhythm, like the tree had a heartbeat. The longer I listened, the more it seemed to pull at me, not with sound, but with quiet, a kind of silence that made everything else fade away. I took a step closer. The air felt heavier. There was a smell now, damp wood, something old and something sweet, like sap left too long in the sun. The shimmer inside the hollow shifted. It wasn't steady anymore. It flickered like something breathing behind the bark. A faint warmth rolled out of the opening, and I thought, for a second, I heard a whisper, not words. Just a tone, a sigh that carried weight. I should have turned around. I knew I should have. But curiosity, it has a way of sounding gentle, like a voice that promises answers. I crouched near the roots, pressing a hand against the rough bark. The surface trembled beneath my palm. Something moved inside. Not quickly, slow, like shifting earth. The hum deepened, and shadows began to twist along the ground. They slid between the roots, curling in ways shadows shouldn't move. The shimmer brightened. My reflection, or something pretending to be it, flashed for an instant across the hollow's surface. It smiled, not cruel, not kind, just knowing. The hum grew softer, almost tender, and for a moment I felt calm, completely calm. I leaned closer. Close enough to feel the warmth breathing out from the hollow. It wasn't air, it was alive. The shimmer reached out, stretching toward me like a ripple of light through water. It touched my fingertips, and I felt everything stop. No wind, no sound. Even my breath hung still. The world shrank to the space between me and the hollow. There was no fear. Just a weight, a pull. Something inside wanted me there. Not to harm, not to help, just to join. The hum pressed against my ribs, matching my heartbeat until I couldn't tell which was mine. I took another step forward, just one, and the roots shifted beneath me. They weren't solid anymore. They pulsed like veins. The shimmer faded suddenly. Pulling back into the dark, the hum stopped, and in its place, silence. Pure, empty silence, the kind that makes your ears ring, like the world forgot how to breathe. I stumbled backward, heart pounding again. The cold rushed in all at once, sharp and biting. The hollow was just a shadow now, still, empty. Whatever had been calling me was gone. Or maybe it was waiting. I turned away slowly, feeling the weight of its gaze on my back. Though I knew it had no eyes, the forest had gone quiet again. Completely. Even my footsteps sounded distant, like I was walking inside someone else's dream. At the edge of the clearing, I looked back one last time. The moonlight brushed across the trunk, and for just a heartbeat, the shimmer returned. Soft and pulsing, as if it were breathing. Then it dimmed, sinking back into the hollow, and the tree stood silent once more. I walked away. But the hum stayed with me, somewhere deep in my chest. Slow, steady, waiting to be heard again. It was late afternoon when I found it, half hidden behind a wall of overgrown pines, tilted slightly to one side, as if the earth had been slowly swallowing it for years. The cabin, its roof sagged in the middle, and the wood along the sides had turned almost black with age. Rust traced the corners of every nail, like veins on a dying thing. The air smelled heavy, damp soil, old rot, and something metallic like wet iron. I stepped closer. The ground sank beneath my boots, soft with moss and decay. One of the shutters hung loose, creaking softly as it swung in the wind. The door was slightly open, not enough to invite, just enough to tempt. I stopped at the threshold. The smell inside was worse. Stale wood, wet paper, something sweet that didn't belong. When I touched the door, it moved before I could push it. Slowly, silently. It opened on its own. The light that spilled out was faint. A thin, yellow flicker, as if something deep inside still breathed. Dust floated through the air like ash. Each step I took made the floorboards sigh. Inside, it felt still, not abandoned, just waiting. The walls were lined with photographs. Frames tilted at odd angles, some cracked, some empty. I brushed one with my sleeve. The dust came away to reveal a picture. A family standing just outside the same cabin. Their faces were clear. Too clear. The father's hand was mid-wave, but his arm never finished the motion. The mother's smile didn't reach her eyes. And the child looked straight ahead. Not at the camera. At me, I moved to the next frame. Then another. Every photo was the same family, always outside, always frozen mid-motion. It was hard to breathe. The flickering light came from deeper inside. A single lantern swaying slightly, though there was no draft. Its glow trembled across the walls, making the faces in the photograph seem to move, like they were breathing in unison. I tried to look away, but the eyes followed. Always forward, always toward me. Something shifted in the back room. A soft scrape, like a chair moving slowly across the floor. I told myself it was the wind. But there was no wind. The air had gone thick, almost humming. I stepped toward the lantern, each movement careful, measured. There was a table beneath it. More photographs scattered across the surface, warped from moisture, edges curled inward like petals. I picked one up. It was blank. Just a smear of light and shadow, but as I stared, shapes began to form. The same cabin, the same trees, and someone standing where I was standing now. The longer I looked, the clearer it became, until I could see my own jacket, my own hands, my face, turned slightly toward the door. Then I noticed something behind me in the picture. A shadow. Tall, unclear, leaning from the doorway. I turned around. Nothing. Only the open door. And the forest beyond, silent and gray. But when I turned back to the photo, the shadow was gone too. The lantern flickered harder now, as if reacting to something unseen. Its flame stretched, thinned, then steadied again. The hum in the air deepened. Barely a sound, but enough to make my teeth ache. On the far wall, the photographs began to tremble in their frames. One fell, then another. Glass cracked softly against the floorboards. I backed toward the door, the boards beneath me groaning louder with each step, and then I saw it, a new frame, one I hadn't noticed before, half hidden behind a beam. It was newer. The glass clean, the image, sharp, the same cabin again, the same clearing, but this time there was no family, just the cabin, empty, door open, and me, standing at the edge of the frame. The lantern dimmed. The hum stopped. For a moment, everything went still. Then the door behind me creaked. Slow, long, drawn out like a breath. It closed. The latch caught, though no one touched it. I didn't move. Couldn't. The faint smell of damp wood filled my lungs again. Thick and sweet. Almost like memory. When I looked back to the wall, the photographs were all blank. Every one of them. Only the frames remained empty, glimmering faintly in the dying light. The lantern flickered once more, then went out, and in the dark I heard the faintest whisper, the groan of wood, the weight of time, and something like a voice, barely breathing through the stillness. Stay, I didn't. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the door again, half open, waiting, and I swear, I can smell the damp wood, and that faint, Sweet rot. Still calling me back. It was late autumn, the kind of night where breath hangs heavy, and the moon looks too close to the earth. I stood at the edge of the marsh. The water was still. A sheet of black glass stretched between the reeds. Somewhere far off, a heron cried once. Then silence folded back over the sound. Mist drifted low across the water, curling around the cattails, clinging to my boots. The air tasted of wet moss and iron. Every inhale felt older than it should have been. Moonlight spilled across the surface of the water. A pale shimmer. Soft, uneasy, and then a flicker, a glimmer moved against the current. Not floating. Moving. It cut through the reflection of the moon like something alive beneath the surface. At first, I thought it was a fish, or maybe the ripple of a submerged branch, but the movement was too deliberate, too patient. The light wasn't from the moon. It was its own. It pulsed once, then again. Like a breath, the marsh seemed to lean toward it. Even the reeds had gone still. I watched as it drifted closer, gliding just beneath the water, trailing faint ripples that shimmered like silver threads. Shapes began to form in those ripples, long, fluid, unclear. They shifted, merged, then vanished before I could focus. Each time they disappeared, the mist thickened. It rose around my legs like smoke, soft and cold. I could hear something within it, a faint hum. Not quite a voice, not quite a sound, just something. It brushed the back of my neck. The air trembled. I whispered to myself that it was the wind, but there was no wind here. I stepped closer to the edge. The mud gave way under my boot, releasing the faint smell of rot. The glimmer had stopped moving. It floated now just a few feet from the shore. The mist swirled tighter around it as if guarding it, or feeding from it. A strange calm came over me, like I wasn't supposed to be afraid, like I'd been here before. The light pulsed again. Slow, rhythmic, almost inviting. My reflection trembled in the ripples. Warped by that same light, it didn't look like me anymore. Its eyes were wider, too still, too knowing. I stepped back. The reflection didn't. The hum grew louder, a vibration I could feel in my ribs. The mist carried whispers now. Faint syllables broken like wind through hollow reeds, not words. But something close, each one seemed to reach for me. Like threads tugging gently at my skin. I turned, but there was no one behind me. Only the marsh and the endless gray fog and that light, still waiting. The ripples spread wider now, and beneath the water, shapes began to move again, closer, slower, their outlines almost human, but not quite. Too long, too thin, flowing like shadows caught beneath glass. I wanted to run, but the hum held me still. It filled my head, soft and heavy. Each pulse of light drew the mist nearer. It brushed my arm, cold as melted snow. Something in it moved. Something unseen, but aware. It didn't pull, it guided, as if asking me to follow. For a moment I leaned forward, just enough for my reflection to blur into the water's surface. The glimmer brightened, flaring like a lantern being lifted, and beneath it, for the briefest instant, I saw faces, dozens, half-formed, drifting, all turned upward, all smiling. Then they were gone. The water rippled once, and the light began to fade. The mist loosened its hold, slipping back across the marsh like breath returning to night. I stood there, alone again, moonlight resting cold on my skin. The glimmer sank beneath the surface. No bubbles, no trace, just silence. The hum lingered for a moment longer, then dissolved into the stillness. I waited, listening, but the marsh gave nothing back. Only the quiet. Only the reflection of the moon. I turned to leave, and in the shallow water near the shore, something caught the light, a faint shimmer. Small. Waiting. I didn't move, because in its reflection, there was a face, not mine, smiling, and for a moment, I could swear. It breathed. It was near dusk, the kind of light that makes everything look softer, but colder. Fog drifted low through the trees, wrapping the forest in a pale veil. Each breath I took hung in front of me, slow and trembling, before dissolving into the gray. The path beneath my boots was damp, slick with moss and fallen leaves. The air felt still, too still. Even the insects had gone quiet. Somewhere behind me, a branch snapped, not loud, but sharp enough to feel deliberate. I froze. The sound hung in the fog, thin as glass. My heart beat once, twice. Then silence folded back over it. I turned, eyes straining through the haze. Nothing moved. Only the fog, curling slow around the trunks of the trees like it was alive. I told myself it was a deer, or maybe the weight of the fog on a weak limb. But I didn't believe it. I took another step forward. The soft rustle of leaves echoed somewhere to my left. Too close. Too careful. I stopped again. That's when I saw it. A shadow, just beyond the reach of the fading light. It moved along the ground, but the branches above didn't shift. No light had changed. No shape had cast it. The shadow moved on its own, slow, curving. Along the earth like smoke caught in motion, it brushed over a tree trunk and vanished into the fog. I felt my pulse climb into my throat. The air grew colder. A quiet hum filled my ears, like pressure building just behind the silence. Something brushed the back of my neck, light as a fingertip, cold as the surface of stone. I spun around. Nothing. Only the white air and the faint shimmer of damp branches overhead. I whispered my own name under my breath, as if hearing it might make me real again. The fog thickened. It moved now, rolling inward from every direction, until the trees looked like shadows drawn in chalk. The forest felt smaller, closer. Every breath I took came out shaky, and each exhale carried a faint whisper of sound, too faint to tell if it was mine. Somewhere ahead, the ground rustled, not footsteps. Not quite, just the faint shifting of leaves like something crawling just out of sight. I stepped forward once, twice, then stopped again. The shadow was back. This time, it stretched across the path, longer now, thinner. It didn't match the shape of anything around it. When I moved, it didn't. When I stopped, it shuddered, as if breathing. I could see my own shadow beside it. Still. Perfectly still. But this one, it trembled. The fog pulsed around it, like it was drawing breath from the air itself. Then it lifted. Not much, just enough for the edge of it to rise off the ground as though standing. A chill crawled down my arms. I couldn't tell if I was shaking, or if the air was. The fog hummed again, a low vibration, like something beneath the surface of hearing. Then, silence. Deep, complete. The kind that makes your heartbeat sound like thunder. I couldn't see my breath anymore. Couldn't feel the air move. The trees stood still, but the shadow, it leaned forward, only a fraction, but enough. Enough to know it was aware of me. The silence pressed closer, heavier now. It felt thick, like the fog had weight. My chest ached. Every instinct screamed to run, but I couldn't move. My body had gone rigid, as though the air itself had turned to ice around me. The shadow's shape wavered, thinning into the mist, stretching upward until it blended with the branches, and then gone. Just like that. The fog drifted back, slow and quiet. A single drop of water fell from a branch and hit the ground near my boot. I exhaled for the first time in what felt like minutes. The air returned. The weight lifted, but the silence stayed. It followed me as I turned back down the path. Each step felt heavier than the last. Each movement echoed too long, like something was matching my pace again. I didn't look back, not when the leaves rustled again. Not when the air brushed my neck one last time. Only when I reached the edge of the woods did I glance over my shoulder. And in the pale wash of the fog, among the trees, a single shadow moved without me, and then the silence closed around it, and it was gone. It was late summer. The nights had begun to cool, and the air carried that faint smell of wet leaves and distant rain. I followed the narrow trail through the woods. guided only by the pale shimmer that flickered between the trees. At first, I thought it was moonlight, but as I came closer, I realized it was coming from the pond. The water glowed faintly, soft, bluish light, as if the moon had fallen in and never come back out. Mist hovered low over its surface, curling slow like it was breathing. I stopped at the edge. The mud gave under my boots, and a cold wave of damp air brushed across my face. It smelled like iron, like something old. The pond was shallow, but the water was dark. Too dark. The glow came from beneath, deep beneath. It pulsed, slow and rhythmic, as though the pond itself had a heartbeat. For a moment it felt alive. A ripple moved across the surface. Not from wind, there was none. The trees around me stood still, their leaves heavy with dew. The ripple spread wider, reaching the shore, then stilled again. I leaned forward, watching the light shift. That's when I saw them, eyes, dozens of them, just beneath the water, open, unblinking. They caught the faint glow, reflecting it back, small glassy points staring up through the surface. I froze. Every hair on my body lifted. The air grew colder. Something brushed against my ankle, a gentle swirl of water. Too gentle to be natural. I stepped back. The eyes didn't move, they just watched. A slow ripple crossed the pond again, and the glow flickered, fading, then brightening, like it was reacting. Another ripple, then another. But the water wasn't moving outward anymore. It was pulling inward. Toward the center, the mud beneath me shifted like it was breathing too. A faint whisper rose from the mist. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I realized it was a voice, low, broken, coming from across the water. Don't look. The words were soft, so soft they might have been my own thought, but I heard them. I felt them. They brushed through the fog like a current. Don't look! I wanted to run, but my feet didn't move. The pond rippled again. The eyes turned all at once, following me. The glow grew brighter now, stretching outward beneath the surface, a pulse of light and motion, as though something enormous had stirred below. The whispers layered over one another. Dozens of voices now, all saying the same thing. All trembling. Don't look! The water began to rise, just slightly, like something beneath it was pushing upward. I stumbled backward, my heel catching on a root. The glow reached the edge, spilling pale light across my boots. The mud hissed, tiny bubbles forming in the wet earth. Then silence. Everything froze. The mist stopped moving. The light dimmed. Even the air felt held in place. The pond was still again. Only the faint reflection of the moon shimmered across the surface. No eyes. No movement, just water. I took a step back, then another. But as I turned, the faintest ripple broke the surface again. I looked back, only for a moment, and in that soft, glowing water I saw my own reflection, my face pale, blurred by mist. But behind me, beneath the surface, something moved, a shadow, wide, slow, and then, eyes again, hundreds now, all opening at once, all fixed on me. The whispers returned, sharper this time, urgent. Don't look! Don't look! But I did. I couldn't help it. The glow flared white, so bright it stung my eyes. Then, nothing. When I opened them again, the pond was dark. No light. No mist. No eyes. Only the faint ripple of water settling itself back into silence. The trees swayed again, as if the world had remembered how to breathe. I left the woods without looking back. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see them again. Those shapes beneath the surface, waiting just below the light, staring up through the water. And I still hear that voice, somewhere in the fog, whispering, soft and endless. Don't look. The fog had grown heavier that night. It rolled low across the marsh, so thick that the ground disappeared beneath it. The reeds swayed gently, whispering against each other, their tips slick with cold dew. Each step I took made the mud sigh beneath my boots. The air clung to my skin, damp, heavy, like breath that wouldn't fade. There was no sky anymore, just pale light diffused through the mist, like dawn caught in a jar, never quite escaping. I had been walking for what felt like hours. There was no path, no direction. Only the endless hum of stillness and the faint rustle of unseen things. Somewhere behind me, a faint ripple moved through the reeds. I turned. Nothing, only fog shifting against fog. But when I faced forward again, I saw it. A shape at the edge of the marsh, unmoving, almost human. The mist swirled, and from the reeds a hand reached out, pale, colorless, like bone wrapped in thin, damp paper. It hovered there, just above the water, still, waiting. I couldn't tell if it was calling to me or warning me away. The wrist disappeared into the reeds. There was no arm, no face. Just that single open hand, as if it had been waiting for someone to see it. My chest felt tight. The air grew colder. I took a step closer. The reeds parted slightly, and the hand drifted back, not pulling away, just guiding. It wanted me to follow, and I did. The ground softened as I stepped deeper into the marsh. Each step sank a little lower, the mud swallowing the edges of my boots. The fog moved strangely here, not drifting, but circling. Curling around me in slow, deliberate spirals, I kept my eyes on the hand. It never touched the water. It never shook or faltered. It simply hovered, gliding between the reeds, leading me further in. I don't know why I followed. It wasn't fear that drove me. It was something quieter, something curious, like the fog had reached inside me and turned off the part that questioned things. The silence grew thicker. Even my footsteps seemed swallowed by it. Only the faint hum of air and the slow drag of the mist remained. The hand stopped. It hovered near a cluster of black reeds. Their stems bent low as if weighed down by something unseen. For a long moment, it stayed there. Then, slowly, the fingers curled inward, like it was beckoning. The reeds trembled. Tiny ripples spread through the shallow water. Something moved beneath the surface. Not fast, but deliberate. The fog trembled, and I felt it again. That strange pull. Just behind my ribs, my breath fogged in front of me. Though I didn't feel cold anymore, I took another step closer. The air thickened. It smelled faintly of decay, like leaves left too long under the rain. The water shimmered. And for a moment I saw a reflection that wasn't mine, a pale outline beside me, half-formed, hovering just out of reach. I blinked, and it was gone. But the hand remained, still open, still waiting. I could see faint veins beneath its thin skin like cracks in porcelain. No warmth, no life, yet somehow it breathed. The fog pulsed with it. The reeds swayed in rhythm, and in that rhythm I heard a faint whisper. Not words, just breath. Soft, endless. I should have run. But the hand began to fade, its edges melting back into the fog. Without thinking, I reached out. My fingers brushed the air where it had been. Cold swept through me, deep and sharp, like stepping into frozen water. The world went silent, completely. No rustling, no hum, just stillness. I looked down. The hand was gone. But in its place, the reeds had bent into a hollow shape, as if something had passed through them. The water rippled once, then stilled again. I stood there for a long time, listening for another whisper, another sign. None came, only the fog and the faint reflection of my face in the marsh water. Distorted, pale, almost unfamiliar. I turned to leave, but something caught in the corner of my eye. From the far side of the marsh, between the reeds, another pale shape emerged, a hand, hovering, open, waiting, and for a moment. I couldn't tell if it was reaching for help or if it was simply waiting for someone new to follow. The forest was quiet when I arrived, not empty, just quiet, the kind of stillness that feels full. as if everything is listening. The fog had rolled in early, curling around the trunks of birch trees and clinging to the ground like breath made visible. I remember the faint scent of wet leaves, and the way the air pressed against my chest, heavy, damp, like a warning I couldn't read. I walked slowly, following no path, only instinct. Each step stirred a soft crunch beneath my boots. Every sound felt too loud. Then I heard it, a faint hum, distant, far beyond the trees. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the wind doesn't carry melody. This sound moved like voices, layered, soft, folding over one another in perfect rhythm. It wasn't in any language I knew. No words, just tone, a choir. Singing, nothing. I froze where I stood. The fog seemed to breathe with it. The music came from everywhere at once, yet from nowhere at all. It slipped between the trees, soft and low, like something buried beneath the ground had begun to sing. I turned, searching through the pale mist, and for a moment, I thought I saw them, shapes, dozens, moving slowly through the fog, too still to be alive, too fluid to be shadows. The melody shifted. Higher now, gentle, almost sad. It brushed against my mind like memory, something I should have recognized, but didn't. The air grew colder. Each note sank into my skin, and I could feel it hum through the bones of my hands. I wanted to leave, but the sound, it held me there. It wasn't loud. It was quiet in a way that demanded silence in return. The fog thickened until I couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. And yet, through that veil, figures began to appear. They stood motionless, faces indistinct, outlines blurred. I blinked and they shifted. Each one swayed slightly as if caught in a rhythm I couldn't hear anymore. The music had changed again. It no longer felt distant. It was inside the air, inside me. Every breath carried a vibration. Every exhale sounded almost like a note. My throat tightened. My breath matched the rhythm. And for a moment, I thought I was part of the song. That realization chilled me more than the cold ever could. I took a step back. The shapes didn't move, but the melody faltered. Just for a second. A break. A silence too sharp to be natural. Then the choir began again. Slower this time, as if it knew I'd tried to leave. The fog pulsed. Something brushed my arm, soft, feather-light. I turned sharply, but there was nothing there. Only white air and the faint shimmer of moonlight through the canopy. I could feel eyes on me. Though I couldn't see a single face, the song rose and fell, gentle waves of sound pressing against me until it felt like the entire forest was breathing in sync. Each note carried emotion, not joy, not sorrow, but something in between, something like regret. It called to me. And without realizing it, I'd begun to walk again. The figures shifted in the mist, parting just enough to let me through. Their forms bent slightly, like reeds in a breeze. The closer I got, the softer the song became, until it was barely audible, a murmur at the edge of silence. I reached a clearing, no trees, just open ground covered in shallow pools of water reflecting pale sky. The air felt thinner here. Almost sacred, the choir surrounded me, invisible but near. I could feel them circling, the way one feels warmth through walls. Their song lingered, fading like a dream slipping away on waking. And then it stopped, completely. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was weight. Cold and dense, every sound I made, my breath, my heartbeat, felt wrong inside it. I waited for the next note, but it never came. Just the fog. Just the emptiness they left behind. I looked down at the pools of water. My reflection stared back, blurred, trembling with the ripples. But behind me, in that mirrored surface, shapes still stood, still, silent, watching, their mouths open, as if still singing. But there was no sound, only that thick, endless quiet. And when I finally turned to leave, the first faint hum returned, far away, soft, calling. Not loud enough to follow, but loud enough to know they never stopped. Evening came faster than I expected. The sun was gone. Before I realized I'd been walking in circles. A soft gray light lingered between the trees, and the fog pressed low against the ground, curling around my boots as if it were alive. I'd followed a narrow trail through the reeds, thin, yellowed stalks whispering against one another. But now, the path was gone. When I turned to look behind me, there was only fog, thick, pale, moving in slow waves, like something breathing just beneath the earth. The reeds swayed, though I felt no wind. I waited for the sound of insects, or maybe the faint drip of water from the marsh, but the silence was complete. Too complete. It was the kind of silence that made your own breath feel wrong, loud, unwelcome. I took one step back, trying to find where I'd come from, and the ground felt softer, less certain. The mud gave under my heel and the reeds shifted. Hiding what little I thought I recognized, everything was the same color now. Pale gray, brown, and deeper gray. My heartbeat sounded strange in that quiet, muffled, like it was happening somewhere else. I told myself I'd only lost the path for a moment, that if I kept moving forward, I'd find the clearing again. But the further I walked, the thicker the fog became. It gathered around my legs, then rose, blurring the trees until their trunks looked like faint ghosts stretching endlessly upward. I stopped, closed my eyes, listened. Nothing. No rustling, no hum. Not even the small, living noises a forest should have. It felt like the world was holding its breath. I turned again, and there was no direction left. Every side looked the same. Every shape blended into another. The path, the horizon, the sky, all gone. I whispered something, maybe my own name just to hear a voice, but the fog caught it. Swallowed it whole. Even my words sounded distant, like they'd been said long ago by someone standing where I stood now. The ground shifted again beneath my feet, soft, sinking. I looked down expecting mud, but the earth was smooth and still, like water just before it breaks. The reeds moved again, slowly this time, as if something beneath them was passing through. A faint ripple spread across the fog. Almost unseen, but I felt it, a tremor in the air, as though something had brushed past my shoulder without touching me. I started walking faster. Every few steps I thought I saw shapes in the mist ahead. Flickers of motion, the ghost of a trail curving away. But when I reached it, there was nothing, only more fog, and the quiet pulse of panic that began to rise in my chest. My breath grew shallow. The air was thicker now, damp and cold. It clung to my face, filled my lungs with that metallic taste that always comes before rain, or before something else. I tried to mark my steps, counting, remembering. 10 forward. Turn right. 5 back. But when I turned again, the ground didn't match. The reeds leaned in the opposite direction. Even the slope beneath my feet felt wrong. It was as if the forest was rearranging itself. Quietly. While I blinked, a faint hum began to stir at the edge of my hearing. Low. Vibrating through the fog, like a faraway engine or a deep, hidden voice. I froze. It didn't grow louder. It didn't fade. It just stayed, steady, constant. Just under the surface of the silence, the reeds bent again, all in one direction, as if bowing to something moving past. And then, as suddenly as it began, the hum stopped. The air grew still, too still. I turned one last time, hoping the path would return, but there was nothing left to follow, only fog. Endless, soft and pale. It wrapped around my legs, rose to my chest, my throat, and then higher until all I could see was white. The forest, the reeds, even the ground beneath me, all gone, just air, cold and endless. I stood there unsure if I was moving anymore. Each breath felt thinner than the last, and somewhere in that stillness, I realized I hadn't heard my footsteps for a very long time. The air tonight feels heavier than usual. Fog drifts low across the ground, thick enough to blur the trees into pale shapes. The cold tastes metallic, wet, still. Every step I take sinks slightly, as if the earth beneath the mist is remembering something it wants to keep. For a long while, it's only the rhythm of my breath. Soft, uneven. Then, a whisper. It slips through the fog, barely there, like someone speaking from inside a dream. Not words, not fully. Just sound. Broken. I stop walking. The air moves around me, curling like smoke, and in it, a murmur, low and rhythmic, carrying through the trees. It feels close. Too close. Each syllable trembles against the edge of understanding. I almost recognize it. Almost, but the meaning slides away before I can catch it. My pulse stumbles. There's no wind, but the fog stirs again, shifting against my arms like something breathing beside me. Another voice joins the first, then another, layering softly like the beginning of a prayer. They don't speak together. They overlap. A tide of broken warnings, folding in on one another as though the air itself is trying to form a sentence but can't decide what to say. The sound fills the space between thoughts, and then it fills the space inside them. My throat tightens. I try to whisper back, but my breath catches. The fog thickens. I take a step, then another, and I realize the whispers move with me, always just behind, always just far enough to keep me turning, never finding where they come from. Shapes flicker through the mist, faint, stretching upward, bending, then gone. The fog coils around my legs, a slow spiral that feels deliberate. The air hums faintly, a vibration inside the silence. Like static pressing against skin, the voices rise, not louder, but closer. I can hear them brushing against one another now, rushing in tiny fragments of thought. Don't, stay, beneath. Listen, the words don't connect, but the fear does. I try to breathe quietly, but it feels like the fog listens too. Something moves at the edge of my vision, a darker shadow within the gray. It leans forward. Not human, not animal, just shape. When I blink, it's gone. But the whispers don't stop. They grow thinner, sharper, until each one sounds like it's coming from inside my ear. My own name slips between them. Soft, wrong. I freeze. The next word comes clearer. It's my voice this time. But I didn't speak. My mouth is closed, and yet I hear myself murmuring back to them, repeating what they say. Word for word. The sound trembles in my chest, like my lungs are no longer mine. I take a step back. The shadows shift forward. There's more than one now. Thin silhouettes leaning in, their edges blurring into the mist. I can't tell how close they are. The air between us bends, and my reflection, if that's what it is, shivers against the fog. The whispers rise again, and I hear my own voice inside them answering, echoing. I cover my mouth. But the echo continues, a low, breathy rhythm, half mine, half something else. Every syllable scrapes along my bones like memory being rewritten. The shadows lean closer, slow, careful, as if not to startle me. The mist moves in coils now. Twisting upward, curling around my shoulders, I can feel warmth in it, a pulse, like it's alive. The voices fade into one, steady, constant, so close that it feels like it's speaking directly into my ear. My breath shakes. The fog answers with its own. For a moment, I can almost make out the words. They sound like a warning. Something simple. Something I'm supposed to understand. But the meaning dissolves before it reaches me. And then, quiet. The silence returns. Dense and hollow. The shadows pull back, sliding into the mist. The air feels empty again. I'm alone. I wait, listening for one last whisper. It comes, so faint I barely notice it, and it's my voice again. But this time, it's not answering. It's calling. from somewhere deeper in the fog. And it sounds afraid. The air feels heavier tonight. A pale layer of fog floats above the marsh, thick enough to blur the world into shapes and outlines. The ground beneath my boots is soft, muffled. Every step leaves a soundless print. Ahead, the water stretches flat and still. It looks like glass, so smooth it almost doesn't seem real. The sky hangs low, a washed-out gray, and the surface of the pond mirrors it perfectly. When I lean closer, I see my reflection. Pale, motionless. For a moment, it calms me, seeing something familiar in all this emptiness. But the longer I stare, the more I notice what doesn't feel right. My reflection doesn't blink, not once. I breathe in slowly. The water ripples slightly, but the reflection doesn't move with it. It stays still, as if the surface beneath it never changed. My chest tightens. I take a step closer. The air smells damp, faintly metallic. Cold fog curls around my fingers when I reach toward the surface. For a heartbeat, I almost touch it. Then the reflection moves. Not me, it. The head tilts, slow, deliberate. I freeze, my hand trembling above the water. The reflection's eyes follow mine. It studies me, as if I were the one behind the glass. The water shivers. Ripples spread outward, distorting the image into long streaks of light and shadow. My reflection bends, stretches, melts into something unfamiliar. The mouth widens, too far, too smooth. A faint smile appears. It's subtle at first, almost human. But it keeps growing, soft and wrong, until the shape looks like it's trying to mimic happiness without understanding what it means. My throat feels tight. I step back, but the reflection doesn't. It leans forward. Its movements are slow, graceful, like something floating underwater. The fog thickens around me, curling in slow spirals. The world beyond the pond disappears completely. There's only me and the reflection that isn't mine. I whisper something. A breath. A name, maybe. But it doesn't reach my ears. The reflection opens its mouth. No sound. Just a shimmer beneath the surface, like something stirring below. The water hums faintly, a vibration through the air, through my bones. I try to look away, but it's impossible. The reflection blinks now, slowly, deliberately. It raises a hand. My hand doesn't move. The pale fingers spread wide, pressing softly against the underside of the water, as though there's a barrier it's testing. My breath quickens. Mist beads against my skin. The reflection's hand drifts upward again, until it's level with my chest. Then it stops. The smile fades. The face on the water grows still once more, but the air feels charged, like it's waiting for me to do something. I take a step back. The water darkens. The reflection follows, still moving, even though I'm frozen in place. Its features twist, rippling outward into 100 broken fragments. Eyes, lips, and pale shapes swirling together beneath the fog. Each movement mirrors a version of me that doesn't exist. I can see one of them smiling again, another weeping, another turning away entirely. It's like the water is remembering every version of me that could have been. And then, stillness. The reflections stop shifting. They merge into one face again, mine except the eyes are open wider now, too wide. The faintest ripple touches my boots. I glance down. The reflection's hand, pale and still, rests just beneath the surface, as though it's waiting for me to reach down again. I take a step back. Then another. The fog closes in behind me. The pond fades into a pale blur. I don't look again. But even as I walk away, I can feel that faint hum following me, like breath behind glass. And when I blink, I can still see that smile, shimmering faintly behind my eyelids, as if the reflection never stopped watching, as if it never really sank beneath the surface at all. The air feels thinner tonight. The marsh stretches out in front of me, a gray expanse breathing beneath the fog. Each step sinks softly into the wet earth. The smell of moss, of stagnant water and faint decay lingers in my throat. For a moment, I think I'm alone. Then the mist shifts, just slightly, and something takes shape in the distance. A figure. Still. Far enough that I can't see its face, but close enough that I feel its presence pressing against the quiet. The reeds around me lean with the breeze. Soft ripples move through the shallow water, but the figure doesn't move at all. It stands like it's waiting. I stop walking. Every breath feels too loud. The fog curls around my legs, cool and damp, and I realize how silent everything has become. No frogs, no wind, not even the faint rustle of insects. Just that figure, anchored in the haze ahead. Something inside me says, "Go back." But something else, quieter and stronger, pulls me forward. I can't explain it. It's not curiosity, it's something deeper. A slow tug behind my ribs, as if the marsh itself wants me to see. I take a step. The ground sighs under my weight. A faint hum rolls through the fog, low and distant, like the echo of a voice I've almost forgotten. Another step. The figure grows clearer. I can make out the faint outline of arms. The suggestion of a head, but the edges shimmer. Like heat above a road, it isn't solid, and yet I can feel it watching. My breath turns shallow. The air feels heavy enough to taste. Cold moisture gathers at the back of my neck. I whisper, barely, and the words disappear before they leave my lips. The figure doesn't answer. It doesn't even move. I take another step. The fog parts slightly, just enough to see that its feet don't touch the ground. It's standing on the mist itself. The pale light from above reflects off the water in trembling lines that stretch toward it. Like threads trying to reach, I feel the pull again, closer. Each step is slower now, as if the air itself resists me. My heart moves in time with the soft sucking of mud underfoot. Closer. The figure seems taller now, or maybe the mist has lowered. It doesn't have a face, just a hollow brightness, a glow where its eyes should be. It's not menacing, but it's not kind either. It feels inevitable. I stop, barely a few meters away. The marsh breathes between us. The reflection of the figure trembles on the water, distorted and deep, as if there's more of it beneath the surface than above. The silence presses in harder, so thick I can feel my pulse in my ears. Then, without a sound, the figure moves, not away, not toward me. It blurs, softly, like fog dispersing through light, and vanishes. The mist fills the space it left behind, swallowing the shape completely. I blink, waiting for it to reappear. But it doesn't. Only the empty marsh remains, rippling faintly where it once stood. For a moment, I think it's over. Then I feel it, a weight in the air, like something unseen still standing beside me. I turn slowly, but there's nothing. Only the fog, folding in on itself. The reeds sway again as if breathing. The hum fades, and the silence that follows is colder than before. I should leave. Every part of me knows that, but I can't. The marsh feels different now. Not empty, not hostile, just aware, as if something ancient and half awake has shifted beneath the water. I look down. My reflection stares back, still, colorless, blurred by the ripples. For an instant, I think I see another shape beside it, a faint outline, a shimmer of presence. And then, nothing, only fog, only silence. The marsh exhales once more, a soft breath through the reeds, and I realize, whatever that figure was, it didn't disappear, it just moved closer. And now, when I breathe, I swear I can feel the air move with me, as if I'm no longer breathing alone. Morning never really came, just a pale light, thick and gray, spilling across the forest floor like a breath that never ends. The fog clings to everything. It curls around the roots of trees, slides between my fingers, fills the space where my voice should be. I've been walking for hours, maybe longer. The air here makes time feel stretched, thin enough to tear. My footsteps echo softly, as if the ground itself is hollow beneath the moss. Each sound fades too quickly, swallowed by the mist before it reaches the next step. There are no paths, no direction, only the faint outline of trees, trunks that appear and vanish like slow-moving shadows pretending to be solid. Sometimes I think I see shapes drifting past me, not people, not animals, just silhouettes, thinner than fog, sliding through the white with no sound. They never touch. They never look back. I try not to stare, but my eyes keep following them, hoping one will stop. None do, I whisper, just to break the silence, but my voice feels smaller than I remember. The air presses close, cool, and damp against my skin. It carries a faint sweetness, like rotting leaves after rain. Somewhere ahead, something hums. It's soft. Barely there. Almost kind. The same hum I've heard before. Back when the fog first started following me, I stopped walking. It doesn't. The hum winds through the air like a thread, drawing me forward. Each step feels heavier now, like the forest wants me to stay still, to listen. I can't tell if the sound is near or far. It seems to come from everywhere at once. From the trees, the soil, maybe even from beneath my ribs. I try to speak again, but my breath catches, and the fog moves with it. It swirls around my face like it's alive. My chest tightens. My heartbeat feels loud enough to break the silence, but the forest doesn't react. It's been waiting. I can feel that now. The realization comes slowly, like a memory surfacing through still water. The forest has always been waiting. Not for anyone else. Just me. Maybe it always knew I'd end up here. Maybe everything that came before. The voices, the reflections, the figures in the mist, were only steps leading back to this place. I stopped trying to remember where I came from. It doesn't matter anymore. The ground beneath me feels soft, like wet fabric. The trees lean closer, their branches dripping faint threads of fog. I walk again, because it's all I can do. My footsteps blend with the hum, slow, steady, almost rhythmic. I don't know how long I move like this, minutes, hours, a whole night. It all feels the same. Sometimes I think I see my own shape ahead of me, a faint shadow moving just beyond reach. It stops when I stop. It disappears when I blink. Maybe I'm following myself. The hum deepens. It vibrates through the trees, through my bones, settling behind my eyes like a low, constant tide. It's not frightening anymore. It feels right. The forest breathes around me. Branches creak softly overhead. Moisture drips in slow rhythm onto the earth. Every sound fits. Every silence, too. I take a deep breath. The air tastes like cold metal. It fills me, and for a moment I can't tell where the fog ends and I begin. Maybe I was never meant to leave. Maybe the forest isn't a place. It's a memory, or a promise. And I've finally reached the part where I stop searching. The hum quiets, but doesn't vanish. It lingers in my chest, steady and patient. The shapes in the fog drift past again. They move slower this time, almost gentle. One brushes close enough for me to feel its cold pass through my sleeve. No fear, just a faint ache of recognition. The world narrows to breath, to stillness. My feet sink deeper into the moss, and I realize I haven't felt tired in a while. The air is heavy, but peaceful. The trees no longer seem distant. They're watching, quietly, waiting for me to stop moving. I do, and when I do, the forest exhales. The mist folds in, closing every path behind me, and I feel something settle in my chest. Not dread, not loss, just quiet acceptance. This is where I was meant to be, in the fog. In the hum, alone, but not forgotten. The forest doesn't let go. It doesn't need to. It's always been here, and now so have I.